Most people think Adolf Hitler died in 1945, that Nazi Germany collapsed, and every person, company, and banker who supported him vanished with the Reich. But what if I told you that the most powerful men behind Hitler never faced punishment, never went to prison, never even went to trial, and today their financial empires quietly control banks, corporations, and political influence across Europe? What if the real story of World War II is not about who lost on the battlefield, but about who won in the boardrooms? What if Hitler's defeat didn't end the system, it simply changed the names on the doors? This is the story of Hitler's secret bankers, the men who financed a dictator, protected their money in foreign vaults, and after the war, merged back into society like nothing happened. And the shocking part, their companies still dominate Europe today. Car brands you drive, banks that handle your savings, chemical giants that supply your medicines, even governments that depend on their funding. This isn't conspiracy. This is documented, audited, proven history. And once you hear the full story, you will never look at European power the same way again. This is the part of history nobody wants to talk about. Before Hitler had armies, speeches, or followers, he had bankers. But the story doesn't start with Hitler. It starts decades earlier. In a different Germany, a broken empire drowning in debt after World War I. Hyperinflation, one loaf of bread costing billions of marks. German money burned in stoves because it was cheaper than firewood. In the center of this chaos stood three groups. 1. The Industrial Titans. Fritz Thyssen, steel baron. Hjalmar Schacht, financial mastermind. Albert Vogler, mining king. Gustav Krupp, weapons empire owner. They were not politicians. They were businessmen, ruthless, calculating, and obsessed with profit. The big German banks, Deutsche Bank, Dresdner Bank, Reichsbank, Germany's central bank. These banks controlled the loans, the currency, and the economic survival of the country. Foreign partners, American and European financial families with cross-border ties. The Wall Street German industrial committees, the Bank of England factions, certain corporate investors from France, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. They all had one thing in common. They hated communism and feared a workers' revolution. Germany was a pressure cooker. They needed a strong man who could restore their profits. Adolf Hitler, a failed artist with extraordinary speaking power. A man with anger, ambition, and an obsession with revenge. At first, the bankers ignored him. He was just noise. But one man noticed something others missed. Fritz Thyssen, the banker who built Hitler. Thyssen saw Hitler as a tool, a weapon, a way to crush communists and protect his steel empire. In his memoir, Thyssen openly admitted, "I financed the National Socialist Party." He didn't support Hitler because of ideology. He supported him because Hitler promised war, and war meant contracts. Contracts meant weapons. Weapons meant money. Money meant power. This was the true beginning of a relationship that would shape the fate of Europe. The rise money, foreign accounts, secret deals. Hitler didn't rise through speeches. He rose through bank transfers. The bankers built him like a business project. The secret meetings in 1931 and 1932. Key industrialists met at exclusive clubs, private mansions, and smoke-filled rooms in Berlin. Schacht, calculating every number. Krupp, smiling quietly. Thyssen, analyzing every angle. They agreed on one thing: Hitler is our guy. The funding machine money began to flow. 1 million Reichsmarks from Thyssen, corporate donations from IG, support from major banks, foreign money rooted from Swiss accounts. IG Farben alone became the largest donor, and later the largest war profiteer. These were not random contributions. They were investments. Hitler promised rearmament, steel, coal, weapons equals profit, new factories, industrial expansion, war contracts for decades. Hitler was a political front. The bankers were the shareholders. The final push. January 1933. Hitler needed one last boost to seize full power. On January 27, 1933, Hitler met industrialists. He told them something chilling: "Only under me will your industry survive." They believed him. They funded him. 3 days later, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Not because people voted for him, but because bankers financed him. The war machine caused an defect explosion. Now Hitler had power. But power is useless without money. This is where the story gets darker. Halmarstach, the magician banker, Schacht engineered a financial trick that stunned the world. He created Mefo bills, fake money disguised as industrial loans. The banks willingly accepted them. The Reichsbank printed money, backed by nothing but promises. Germany rebuilt an entire army in secret. Tanks, planes, ships, factories, railroads, all financed through a network of Deutsche Bank, Dresdner, Bank AG, Farbankrupp, industries without a single one of these financial giants. Hitler would never have had an army. The secret foreign networks during the war. Massive funds were stored in Swiss banks, Sweden's Enskilda Bank, Dutch holding companies, Spanish intermediaries, Portuguese, gold vaults, and that was the plan. In 1944, Germany's collapsing. See these Bornead armies defeated. Hitler hiding in a bunker. But something strange happens. The bankers are calm. Why? Because they spend years preparing escape routes. Operation Safe Haven starting in 1943. German industrialists quietly transferred money, gold, patents, company shares, machinery, intellectual property, IG Farben. Moved assets to Switzerland. Krupp moved holdings to Sweden. Thyssen hid money through Dutch banks. Dresdner Bank used proxies in Portugal and Argentina. It was not chaos. It was strategy. They knew Germany might lose the war, but the money must survive, and it did. May 1945. Berlin is ash. The Reich is gone, but the men who funded him, they walked free. Why? Because the Allies needed German industry. Hermann Steel, German chemicals, German banking systems, German scientists, German infrastructure. The world powers made a choice: punish a few political leaders but preserve the economic engine. The trials that never happened. Most industrialists were never prosecuted. IG Farben executives received light prison terms. Some only served 2 years. Thyssen returned to business. Schacht became a consultant. Group rebuilt his empire. The banks, not a single major German bank was dismantled. Instead, they merged, consolidated, and grew even more powerful. This is the part that shocks people. After the war, these companies didn't disappear. They rebranded, merged, and expanded. Here, just a few. IG Farben breakup resulted in Bayer, B.A., SF Hoechst. These are now multi billion-dollar global giants, one of Europe's largest steel and engineering groups. Deutsche Bank now, one of the most influential banks in Europe. Dresdner Bank, Allianz Group, massive insurance and financial power. Automotive networks, companies that used forced labor under the Nazis later. BMW, Volkswagen, Daimler-Benz. They became Europe's most powerful industrial giants. Their influence today influence EU, policy, control, energy, medicine, and transport, fund political parties, shape economic regulations, dominate exports, own entire sectors of the European economy. They don't print swastikas. They don't talk about Hitler, but the families, holding companies, and banking networks behind them are the same. The system didn't die. It transformed. Consolidated industrial power. A small group of companies controlled German manufacturing, European steel, chemical production, pharmaceuticals, auto exports. Banking systems. More centralization equals more power. Political influence. Lobby groups quietly influence EU regulations. Banking rules, trade policies, energy decisions. Many of these groups trace their origins to the same pre-war industrial families. The gold trail. Much of the Nazi-looted gold was never recovered. Documents show some flowed into Swiss banks, British foundations, South American accounts, modern European investment groups for expansion after crisis. Each time Europe faces recession, the same corporations grow stronger through mergers and acquisitions. History repeats itself, not through wars, but through money. If the past tells us anything, it is this: when corporations become more powerful than governments, nations become tools. This happened in the 1930s. It is still happening today. Hitler was one man, but the system that empowered him was a network. A network of bankers, industrialists, lobbyists, political influencers. And that network still exists, in different forms. Not with the same ideology, but with the same hunger for dominance. Dictators don't rise alone, they are financed. Before Hitler had followers, he had bankers. Economic power survives wars. Countries fall. Empires collapse. But financial networks adapt and continue. Modern Europe is shaped by companies that once powered the Reich. Not through ideology, but through generational wealth and influence. History doesn't repeat with the same faces. It repeats with the same systems. Systems of unchecked corporate power. Systems where money decides politics. Systems where the public sees the surface but never the machinery behind it. If we forget how deep this story goes, we risk repeating the same mistake, believing that evil ends when a dictator dies. It doesn't. It evolves. If you want more documentaries that reveal the hidden financial histories behind world events, subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments what truth you want uncovered next. Because discovering the truth is the strongest weapon we have.